And now, Whitney Media 1460 WVOX presents Westchester Means Business with Marsha Gordon. Marsha Gordon is the president and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. Now, here's Marsha Gordon.
Delighted to be here at WVOX talking about business in Westchester County every week. What makes business grow? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? And what's basically happening in the Westchester business landscape? We have today a guest who I've known for quite a bit of time and has a long time history in Westchester and White Plains and the region, and I know has a lot of great perspective on business and Westchester County and economic development. So I'm pleased to welcome Kevin Harrington. He is a founding partner at Harrington, Ocko Monk. They are a full-service law firm with offices in White Plains and in New York City. The firm's lawyers have a wide breadth of experience in construction, liability defense, commercial and business litigation, business and corporate matters, real estate, financial transactions, professional liability litigation, trademark and copyright law, employment law, trusts and estates, and outside general counsel services. And their website is www.homlegal.com. And we'll be repeating that several times. So, Kevin, welcome to you.
Thanks. So nice to be here.
Very glad to have you here at WVOX. So let's start at the very beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your background?
Sure.
And how you got to be a lawyer?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think I probably talked a lot as a kid, and I remember my dad remarking on more than one occasion when I was arguing with him, "Oh, you'll make a good lawyer someday."
Uh-huh.
And
There's something to that, huh?
I remember sitting when I was in college at Brown, and I was a sophomore, and I was thinking about what am I going to do with my life, and I had this instinct that maybe I should go to law school, and I'm sure those semi-serious conversations with my dad had something to do with that.
And where did you wind up going to law school?
I went to Georgetown.
Okay, great. So you went from Brown to Georgetown. Pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your law firm, Harrington, Ocko Monk.
Well, we started small. There were three of us and a part-time secretary back in 1992.
And when did you start? Okay.
And we've really just grown organically, and in the sense that we've attracted some really good lawyers many of whom have been with us a long time, and have brought in, some younger lawyers over the years as well, and some very recently. And we started out, I would say, mostly as a litigation firm, and that's still true to this day. Probably 2/3 to 3/4 of our practice is litigation. But we do a lot of things in that sphere, and have broadened our practice from business litigation to include insurance-based litigation, then including liability defense work, professional liability claims, and also on the corporate side, we do construction both in litigation and also in the transactional sphere. We handle mergers and acquisitions for clients. We do intellectual property work, whether it be registering copyrights and trademarks, helping clients with all kinds of employment-related issues, which are very, very prevalent. And I think kind of an important
changing, very dynamic field these
ingredient
days.
in most businesses that people have to pay close attention to for that reason.
Exactly.
So and there's a number of other things that we do. We do work for owners of companies that have to set up their businesses in such a way that they will have future growth opportunities available to them, and try to do things with an eye to the future so that we can be a little proactive in the way we approach things.
So it sounds like you really act as counsel.
We do.
To your clients.
We do. And that's been something that we're very proud of. Is I refer to it as outside general counsel, that we get called upon to represent a company, let's say in an employment matter, where there's a problem with an employee that someone wants to terminate, for example, and they don't know how to do it, and they're certainly concerned about claims as a result, and they may be completely legally justified in what they want to do, or maybe not so much. And that's where, the counseling and advice comes in to evaluate that and really give them some heart-to-heart advice that their plan may be perfectly fine or it may need some changing.
That's very, very important. My guest today is Kevin Harrington. He is a founding partner at Harrington, Ocko Monk. We are on WVOX, not live today, but you can always listen live at WVOX.com. And I'm Marsha Gordon. I'm president and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. How large is your firm, Kevin?
We're 14 lawyers, and we have probably 5 or 6 paralegals and support staff.
So
and almost all of our full-time staff is in White Plains. We do have a New York City office that's staffed on a rotating basis by different lawyers from Westchester that need to be in the city. So that's a great convenience. But we're a Westchester firm and very proud of that.
That's great. And we are proud to have you. So do you have new or growing areas that you've added to your firm recently?
Well, we have. We've really expanded our construction practice over the years to where it's a significant part of our firm. We do personal injury defense litigation, and that's construction, as you know, is a dangerous business, and so there's a fair amount of that litigation. And we've expanded that practice to include OSHA violations and representing companies when they get.
That's what I think about. Yes.
Yeah, when folks get citations, and we do claim litigation involving financial disputes and then corporate agreements. Acquiring, competitors or smaller companies, and so it's a very broad practice in that area, in that way. And we've our intellectual property practice, which started out very small, just registering some trademarks for a couple of key clients, to expand it to include all kinds of intellectual property short of patents. We don't do patent work, but we do copyright, trademark, unfair competition. We do litigation in that field, as well as some digital media related work.
Well, that's a growing area, I'm sure.
Email marketing, which is sort of a curse, but yet a reality of the way we live today. And there's, believe it or not, a growing trend toward litigation for people that are claiming they shouldn't be receiving these quote-unquote spam emails. And there are pockets of litigation that we've gotten drawn into by our clients dealing with that.
Very interesting. And the offices of Harrington, Ocko Monk are in White Plains?
We're in downtown White Plains near the train station at 81 Main Street, where we've been for a long time very happily. And
seen a lot of changes in the city.
Oh, my God, yeah. I remember when there was just a big hole next to the train station looking out my window, and now it's filled with a couple of high-rise apartment buildings and the other end of Main Street.
Exciting.
With city center, and it's been tremendous.
Yeah, walkable. And you find that the train makes you, allows you to recruit employees?
Well, it makes us, it's great for a number of reasons. We do litigate a lot in New York City, and we have clients there. So to jump on an express train and be in Manhattan in 31 minutes is a great boon to us. And most of our lawyers live in Westchester, but some do live in the Bronx and some do live elsewhere, and so they can take the train either up from the city or down from the suburbs. And we have parking in our building, so it's great for everybody. And I find that it's enabled our practice to grow because we don't really feel like we're a suburban law firm. We're in a small city, which is a great, vibrant economics area, but it's also available to get into Manhattan when you need to be there.
That's great. So your clients, where do your clients come from?
Sort of, I would say we're a regional firm. I wouldn't really characterize us as a national firm, although we do have some national clients that you'd recognize. But the scope of our practice tends to be in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, for the most part. But our actual firm is licensed, and our attorneys are all licensed in New York, and we do have a few in other states. But there are a number of matters that have called for us to go elsewhere.
Well, I know people who are your clients. I know people who work with you as strategic partners, and the value that you bring to businesses in Westchester County is invaluable.
Yeah, well, that's so nice to hear.
Really, you really understand your clients' needs, and you're really there to help the clients do things the right way.
Yeah.
And succeed.
Well, that's I think one of the things we're most proud of is when you, as a lawyer, and you've been doing it for a while, and when you get to exercise a lot of judgment and a lot of insight, and people come to you for that. And when you give good advice and you can see that it's helped the client, it's a great feeling.
That's great. My guest today is Kevin Harrington. He is a partner, the founding partner at Harrington, Ocko Monk. They are a full-service law firm with offices in White Plains and New York City. Website is homlegal.com. I'm Marsha Gordon. I'm president and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. We are Westchester's largest business organization. I just want to mention that we're at the end of February now, but at the end of March is our big expo. So if anyone hasn't signed up, please be sure to sign up for the expo. And you can find that information at thebcw.org. So, Kevin, who is your ideal client for the firm?
Well, I think our ideal client is a company that has grown to the point where it starts to see the intersection of its business with legal issues in a number of different fronts. And they've perhaps outgrown the law firm that they may have started with, that may have incorporated the company, or that may have handled a matter or two, perhaps that handled their original lease. And they find that they have problems with, we mentioned employment law, that's certainly an area. They have, maybe they want to acquire another smaller firm, and they want to bring them in and don't know how to do that. They've got an accountant, but they may not have a lawyer that's handled matters like that before. They may have, there may be a dispute between the owners. So they may not know how to deal with that. Any number of things that can come up. And it's like you can grow with your clients, and sometimes when they come to you, you just handle one matter and you're done. But excuse me.
That's okay. You know, I was going to mention a few weeks ago I was interviewing somebody. It's a very interesting issue. It's probably a whole other conversation. But when somebody is with, you know, we're all loyal to people that we've worked with a long time.
Yes.
I hate to say whether it's your hairdresser or your nail technician or your CPA and your attorney. But sometimes somebody can't get to that next step with you, and it's time to make a change.
Right.
And so when you said, you know, somebody starts with a small attorney, you know, maybe a solo practitioner, some a small office, and then needs something more, you know, that's a tough thing for people to handle.
It's tough, and people are loyal, and sometimes somebody will have a conversation. They'll say, you know, I'd like to call you. Yeah. About some issues that I have, and that's like the first step. It may not be, the phone may not actually ring. It may just be someone telling you, and then 2-3 months later, the phone call comes in.
Exactly.
When they're ready to make that.
Exactly. Now, I've heard you use the phrase outside general counsel. What exactly is meant by that?
Okay, well, that's where, companies, when they get to a certain size, many companies hire general counsel to be an employee of the company, usually in a senior role. Pardon my cough. But there's a healthy number of small and mid-sized companies that have not yet reached that point where they need to have somebody full-time on staff. And so what we offer, because we are a full-service firm, is that we have expertise in basically all the areas that a company needs legal representation, and we're a phone call away. So it's kind of like an a la carte general counsel.
That's great.
You can, bring us in if you need us. If there's an area that we don't have an expertise in, we'll find somebody that we work with typically that does have expertise in that area, so that we're not stepping outside of areas where we genuinely have expertise. And it's worked, as a great fit for a firm like mine, because we don't just do one or two things, we do a number of things.
That's very, very important, because most mid-sized firms can't afford a full-time attorney on staff.
Right, exactly.
And that they need that information when they need it.
Yeah.
So that's great. Your firm's practice at Harrington, Ocko Monk, more proactive or reactive, would you say?
Well, I'm really proud of both. I mean, we try to be proactive, and that comes from getting to know our clients. Seeing things that are in need of fixing. May not have been asked to come in. The company comes in and, for example, they have an employment problem and it turns out they have no employee manual.
Yeah.
That's a no-no these days. You really need one, both for the benefit of the employees who need to know what the company's policies are, and also for the company to protect itself and to give clarity to situations that can sometimes be clouded with lack of information. So we may come in and recommend to a client that they need to do that, and frequently they'll have us involved either in the drafting or in the review and editing of an employee manual. So that's an example of us being proactive. And we certainly are not shy about giving advice when it's asked for, and sometimes when it's not, when we see things that need to be addressed.
Well, that's important. Over the life of your firm and your own, I know you've, everyone's kind of proud of one particular success. Is there any particular success that gives you the most satisfaction, or types of successes?
Yeah, I think as a firm, something that's happened is lawyers, like I guess a lot of businesses, have their own industry and peer group, and among lawyers, we rate each other as to how we're performing our job. And there's an organization known as Super Lawyers, which many of our listeners may have heard of.
You see it in the magazine section.
Yeah, it's a essentially peer evaluation of other lawyers who practice by lawyers about lawyers, and we've been fortunate enough to have 11 of our 14 lawyers.
That's incredible.
Selected to be super lawyers this year, and we've had similar numbers in the past. We actually had 3 of our lawyers named as top 25 attorneys in Westchester.
That's
it's
that means a lot. That doesn't just happen. That's not something that That's something that is selected very carefully.
Yeah, they say that it's the top 5%. And it sounds like bragging, and maybe I am bragging a little, but
that's okay. That's something to brag
very
about.
Proud of that.
And you've led that. I mean, as you said, you've started this company. You started with 3 people, and to see it really positioned and recognized by your peers is something to be very, very proud of.
Yeah, it feels very good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So when you look out on the business landscape today, what are the top legal issues that businesses are facing?
Well, I think watching what's happening to companies like Macy's and looking at what's happening all across the business spectrum, everything is becoming digital. Information is becoming power, and relationships are, being transformed. And I think businesses are adapting to that in their own ways. And it's really brought this whole issue of cybersecurity and online attention to the fore, and that certainly has a legal component because companies are being infiltrated. Business, not only are people stealing valuable personal identifiable information, such as credit cards and dates of birth and things of that nature, healthcare records that shouldn't be accessible, but also they're stealing trade secrets from companies by getting into your emails and finding out how you're pricing your product.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's happening. It's happened to our clients, and we've started advising clients on cybersecurity issues. So that's a new area for us.
That's very interesting.
And I think it's an area that business is paying attention to, but there's the threat out there is maybe even bigger than we realize.
Very interesting. So when new businesses, what advice do you give them? What are some of the common beginner's mistakes that new businesses make?
Well, one thing that we see a lot, since I do litigation, I see it sort of at the end of the chain. You'll see a business where the partners aren't getting along and where they have a different idea about the direction of the firm, and maybe there's been
You see this a lot, yes.
Maybe there's been some problems with somebody doing things they shouldn't. It happens in all kinds of contexts, but the one thing that seems to be more popular or more common than it should be is that the foundational legal documents that these companies are operating on are either extremely out of date or they don't exist, and that's surprising. particularly with successful businesses. They're great at running their business.
Right.
And they're great at envisioning their target audience and pricing their product and competing successfully in the marketplace. But really, the foundational legal documents, it seems like a chore and it's an expense. Certainly, lawyers are expensive. If you know how to use them, I think there's excellent value that you get from getting quality legal services, but it's not free. And companies need to pay attention to having foundational legal documents, whether it be a partnership agreement, because when the partnership starts to get frayed, you have to go to that document to find out what your rights are. And if the document is not there or it's out of date, you are in harm's way.
And people don't want to do it when they're going into business.
They
It's
want
a marriage, right?
They want to find. Yeah, it's marriage.
Right.
And when it doesn't work out, I call that a business divorce because it's very much like a divorce without the children.
Exactly. It's very tough. But money. And
money.
that's
money is
money, right?
One of those things.
One of those things. So anyone that's going into business is well advised to get their legal house in order first.
I believe so, and I think it does not have to be that complicated or that expensive, but like a simple thing of having a shareholders agreement or an operating agreement for an LLC is an important first step for a lot of companies. And as you go along, seeing the need and just keeping an open mind toward whether or not you need to have things written down in a proper fashion, having a credit agreement with your clients so that they don't have unlimited ability to keep from paying their bills, and defining where you're going to be able to go in the event of a dispute with your clients. Simple things that don't have to involve a ton of work can help a lot.
Very important. My guest this Westchester Means Business is Kevin Harrington. He is the founding partner at Harrington, Ocko Monk, LLP. They are a full-service law firm with offices in White Plains and New York City. Always pleased to be here on WVOX. We're not live today, but you can always listen live at WVOX.com. And I'm Marsha Gordon. I'm the president and CEO of the Business Council of Westchester. And we have, please visit us at thebcw.org to see our really wide range of March opportunities to build your business, from our Key Bank Speaker Series on March 7th to our Expo on March 29th. There's a lot happening. So, Kevin Harrington, what do you like best about your job and what don't you like so much?
That's a great question. One of the things I like best is that law still is a profession. It's a business, but it's a profession, and there's an intellectual component to it that since the law is always changing. I mean, think about what's happened in the last 2 weeks on the national scene about immigration law that may not have been a highly focused upon area, but that is now roiling our entire country, and every business is affected. And I heard on the news that like hundreds of the top companies in the country are filing suit over this. So law is it's something that you're never gonna run out of things to learn, and your only limit is the amount of time that you have, and that's a great challenge. Yeah. And another thing I really like about it is being a trusted advisor to my clients. I grew up as a litigator, and that's still a great area of satisfaction, going into court and trying a case and putting everything else in my life aside so that I can focus on that one thing for 2 weeks or however long the trial is to last. Is still a great, exciting thing. But I'm just as excited to be able to give some advice to a client, have them follow it.
Yeah.
And what another thing that doesn't always happen.
Is that your least favorite thing when they don't listen to you?
Sometimes. Yeah. But I'd say my least favorite thing is just the drudgery of having to keep track of everything I do during the day on my timesheet so that I can
That's a tough one. I would be very bad at that.
Yeah.
So, Kevin Harrington, you are a wonderful attorney, and I could see, and the listeners could see, that you have a great passion for what you do and a great passion for the law and your clients, and that's why you've been able to build this very significant law firm. That you're really a player and an important part of Westchester County and the region. So thank you
Thank
for
you
your
so much.
commitment. And I want to give you an opportunity to just say your website and your phone number before we end.
Sure, we actually just redesigned our website a few months ago, so please visit us. It's www.homlegal.com.
Great, fantastic. And we wish everyone a great week for business.